corgi legs so I can ride.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, June 9th, 2020. This is the Prescott City Council voting session. Mayor Pro Tem, do you have any announcements?
I do, Mayor. Thank you very much. I just would like to say the city of Prescott is a community that values the First Amendment. And I'm just so proud of our community and what happened last week. We had a very safe, quiet, but a lot of demonstration with heartfelt sympathy. And I'm just very proud of the city of Prescott because it was, I thought it was very safe. And I think we owe that to our police. And I just really want to recognize the folks that work for the Prescott Police Department and tell you we are with you. And we appreciate all that you did last week. And it was amazing to see and to witness and thank all of our citizens for being there, and the ones that were there and the ones that weren't. I think they were there in their heart. And just want to recognize that our First Amendment is alive and well in the city of Prescott, and so are our respect and our love for our policemen. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. You know, I appreciate those comments and thank you for that. I was walking around the square Tuesday evening, and every person that we ran into, I was walking around with Deputy Chief Amy Bonney, complimented and thanked our police genuinely. And I appreciate that everybody that night was respectful of our police. And I'll echo what Mayor Pro Tem said, is that we respect what our police do. We thank our police for what you do every day. This is a city that values our police force, and we always will. And so we respect what you guys do every day, and thank you for protecting and serving our city. It's very important to us. We're going to have an invocation by Father Ian Dunn with All Saints Anglican Church and pledge led by Mayor Pro Tem Orr.
Let us pray. Almighty God, who has given us this beautiful city in which to live, we humbly pray that we may always be a people mindful of your favor and glad to do your will. Bless our city with honorable industry, sound learning, and pure manners. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride and arrogancy, and from every evil way. We thank you for the men and women who have faithfully served our country's army for the last 245 years. We pray that you would continue to fashion into one united people this community which you have brought together here. Endue us with the spirit of wisdom, especially those to whom in your name we entrust in the authority of the city council, that there may be justice and peace in our town. In the time of prosperity, fill our hearts with thankfulness, and in time of trouble, let not our trust in you fail. All which we ask through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Father Dunn. Let's please call roll.
Mayor Mangarelli.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr.
Here.
Councilman Blair.
Yes.
Councilman Good.
Present.
Councilmember Rusing. Present. Councilwoman Scholl.
Here.
And Councilman Sischka.
Here.
All are present.
Thank you. Let's move on to proclamations.
United States Army 245th birthday.
Ooh.
Want to thank John Palladini for bringing the proclamation to us today. He recently returned from deployment. We appreciate your service, sir.
Nothing handy, front and center. So today's proclamation is for the United States Army's 245th birthday. And I can honestly say that there have been days where I feel like I've been part of the Army for all those 245 years. And then there were the bad days. So, I have to do my call to order. Whereas on June 14, 1775, the Second Continental Congress, representing the citizens of 13 American colonies, authorized the establishment of the Continental Army. And whereas the collective expression of the pursuit of personal freedom that caused the authorization and organization of the United States Army led to the adoption of the Declaration of Independence and the codification of the new nation's basic principles and values in the Constitution. And whereas for the past 245 years, the U.S. Army's central mission has been to fight and win the nation's wars. And whereas the motto of duty, honor, country is the creed by which the American soldier lives and serves. And whereas no matter what the cause, location, or magnitude of future conflicts, the nation can rely on the U.S. Army to produce well-trained, well-led, and highly motivated soldiers to carry out the missions entrusted to them. And whereas the components of the U.S. Army include the Arizona Army National Guard, the U.S. Army Reserves, and the regular Army, and have contributed immensely to COVID-19 response. And whereas members of the City of Prescott have proudly served and made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation's freedom while serving in the United States Army and other branches of our nation's military. Now, therefore, Greg L. Mangarelli, Mayor of the City of Prescott, Arizona, does hereby proclaim June 14, 2020 to be the United States Army's 245th birthday. I'll present this proclamation. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Mayor, thank you very much, Council. It's much appreciated. I'll let you get on with your business. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Is there any member that would like to pull anything from the consent agenda today?
Mayor, I'd like to pull.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to pull item E.
Okay, I think Councilmember Rusine, I heard you ask for item E. Councilman Good?
I agree with that.
Okay. Anybody else? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items 7A through 7H, excluding 7E.
Second.
We have a motion and second. We'll do a roll call vote.
Councilman Blair,
Yes.
Councilman Good,
Yes.
Councilmember Rusing, Councilwoman Scholl,
Yes.
Councilman Sischka,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr,
Yes.
Mayor Mangarelli.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Either Councilman Good or Councilmember Rusine want to address item E?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to start. As you know, water is a huge issue recently, and it's also been a huge issue in the past. There's been litigation going on continuously, and now we have the Gila adjudication. It started off in the 70s. It's been going on for 50 years. They started off with the San Pedro River, and even though nothing has been decided, they're now moving up to look at the Verde River and our Big Chino and our Prescott AMA, and I would like this to be considered. This is going to be a big game changer. It's a huge commitment. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent on this Gila adjudication, and I would appreciate it if maybe Mr. Holstead, who's going to be handling this, could give us a little insight as to what the plan is for this participation in this lawsuit.
Okay.
Well, Mayor, I can maybe address that first. A couple of points. I can let Clyde address what he's going to do for the city. What I would advise against is discussing in detail, litigation strategy in an open session. It's something that's more appropriate for an exec session, as well as that this item or this agenda item is to approve the engagement of the law firm and Clyde Halstead to continue on working with the city on water law issues, including the Gila River litigation. The purpose is really to maintain two things. It's to maintain the knowledge and the experience that Clyde's developed on Prescott specifically water law issues. And the second is to maintain the continuity, the historical knowledge. And I think Councilman Blair is probably best to attest to it. Water and water law in Arizona, it's about history and politics. More than it is about science oftentimes and hydrology. So I think that's the reason that we recommend this engagement. I don't know if Councilmember Rusing wants more discussion on the specifics of the litigation. Certainly, we're happy to do that, but what I would recommend is we would set up an executive session to talk about it, because again, litigation strategy is one of those things that really does you a disservice if you talk about it publicly. It's sort of like talking about what you're willing to negotiate in a deal in public. You kind of lose all leverage.
Thank you. I understand, and I would be happy to have us look at this more closely and discuss it in an E-session.
Okay, Councilman Good?
Well, I just want to make it clear to the public that after we passed a major change in our water policy, providing water outside city limits, even under an IGA, we discover that our water attorney has terminated his employment with the city and become an attorney for an outside law firm that is now going to be retained for who knows how long and under what kind of costs, other than $350 an hour. And we've already known how billable hours when it comes to attorney fees can ramp up significantly in a very short amount of time. I know in the agreement here it says specifically it's not possible for us to provide an estimate of the total fees in pursuing these matters. And I understand that. We're going to have paralegal fees in addition to billable hours. And this can quickly become a huge cost for the city. So I would like to at least ask that we have possibly quarterly reports from our city attorney through our outside law firm to keep track of how much dollars we're going to be committing to this retainer, because clearly it's very, very open-ended. So rather than just say we're going to have this available for 3 years with, I believe, what, 2 one-year options or 2-year options? What was the terms here? 3-year period until June 1st, 2023, automatically renewed for an additional period of 3 years upon written notice by either party. When we had the G-Prep organization here, and we were spending a lot of money on that one and couldn't get even quarterly reports on how successfully they were using our tax dollars, I would like to at least keep a close monitor of the cost of this retainer over that period of time, so that we make sure that we're actually getting the representation and the results we expect.
And I can address that, Mayor. We'll actually get monthly invoices or monthly bills, as all law firms do. But also point out that the term, the provision deals with term immediately following is termination provision. So for any reason or no reason, if the city is unhappy with performance or outcomes, there's a 90-day a 90-day notice to terminate representation. That works both ways. So if the firm decides it wants to go in a different direction, it also gives us 90 days, the city 90 days, to then retain new counsel. So there's a rationale behind the 90 days, and that is so that if we are going to terminate representation, either party, then the city has some time to find new counsel if for whatever reason we end up terminating the relationship. So.
Okay.
Well, that's wonderful. So I can expect from you, city attorney, a monthly report?
I can give you copies of the monthly bills if you like.
I'd rather have a report, but
Okay.
if I need to back up the bills, I'll look at those too. Thank you.
Councilman Blair?
I don't have as much reading time as Phil does, but one thing I do know is that to vote on this on a consent agenda item, I wouldn't do it. Number one, because I think we need to have this in E-session to discuss exactly what we're trying to do, you know, with authorizing this amount of money. And I would agree with Councilwoman Rusing. We need to have a discussion about it because there's a lot involved in it.
Okay, Councilman Siska?
Yeah, isn't this to maintain our institutional knowledge in the water wars, so to speak?
Yes, it is to, again, maintain the knowledge, both the experience and the knowledge of specifically for Prescott's water issues. Going out, you know, we can't we can't force employees to continue to work for the city if other opportunities come along. You know, and so trying to replace, especially water law is a complicated and not a common practice. So finding another assistant city attorney that has water law experience is a tough challenge. So it's that's the reason for recommending to continue on with Clyde as in the limited role to do water law for the city, again, for both experience and historical knowledge for that continuity.
How important for continuity is it that we vote on this issue today?
Well, we wouldn't have any representation. You know, we had executive session this morning where both dealt with water type issues. And so if we don't approve this today, we really wouldn't have any representation on the water law topic until it were approved.
So if in fact we approve this today, is it cast in stone, or is there a way out if we determine that that's not the way we want to go?
I guess what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the fact that we have a water issues committee meeting. We have these different committees, and we have E-session. I guess the point being is how often, because Clyde is very knowledgeable on a lot of different things, how often do we draw upon his knowledge when we're talking about something that might be simple in a water issues committee, and he has to convene with us, and then we're billed for it. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but I think we need to have more of a scope of what we're going to use his knowledge for. I'm not against it.
No, and I understand that, Steve. My concern is that are we, let's say, bypassing some opportunities by not voting on it today and then revisiting it? And I mean, I'm wondering if we're going to have some holes in the wall, so to speak.
I think you can vote on it today, but I think we can still look at having an E-session and asking what the scope of this work is going to be. I'm not opposed to having somebody on retainer and having the monthly bills done. I mean, that's not the point. The point is, if we're going to hire an outside attorney, I want to know what the scope of his job's going to be and how often we use him as far as a subcommittee of council. I mean, as a chairman of the water subcommittee, can I ask for Clyde to show up anytime I want him to show up?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, seriously, without you all here telling me it's okay, maybe I have him at every meeting just because I like his knowledge.
Well,
Yeah, so.
and let me just address that. Approving this today doesn't cost the city anything. It just commits that knowledge to the city and prevents conflicting or opposing parties from being able to acquire that knowledge. In other words, you know, lawyers can't have conflicts of representation. But certainly, anytime we use outside counsel, even including when the risk pool provides us outside counsel, which is included in our premiums, they're still managed by the city attorney's office, and when we use them sort of strategically and tactically, is still managed by the city attorney's office, and certainly in consultation with other staff, other departments, or counsel as needed. So if there's a point where, for instance, there's some really mundane type issue that the Water Issues Committee is going to meet on and doesn't feel it needs any legal advice, or, you know, we would have that discussion and then not bring in the attorney for that, or have somebody in-house like myself just sit in just in case. But you know, so there are situations where you know, those committee meetings or some again fairly simple issue on water or something comes up, where we could still use the city attorney's office for some of the basic stuff, but it's the more complex issues like the Gila River adjudication or dealing with some of the water policy issues that you would use the expertise and knowledge.
So we're not just doing things for the heck of it. We're doing things with a plan in mind.
Correct.
Okay. So, Mayor, would you mind if I made the motion?
That'd be great.
I move to approve consent agenda item E.
Second?
I have a motion and second. Let's do a roll call vote.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Yes.
And Mayor Mangarelli?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to item 8A, please.
Adoption of ordinance number 2020-1717 of the Mayor and Council of the City of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, authorizing the acceptance of a waterline easement agreement, a right-of-way entry and temporary construction easement agreement from Yavapai County, a political subdivision of the state of Arizona, authorizing the mayor and staff to execute any and all documents to effectuate said acceptance, and adoption of ordinance number 2020-1718 of the mayor and council of the city of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, approving a lease agreement, contract number 2020-201, with Prescott Antique Auto Club, Inc., located on city-owned property, and authorizing the mayor and staff to execute any and all documents to effectuate said acceptance.
Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt consent ordinance items 8A and 8B.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Let's take a roll call vote.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Yes.
And Mayor Mangarelli?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
All right, let's move on to item 9A, please.
Public hearing and consideration for a new Series 12 restaurant liquor license application from Skylar Reeves for Taco Don's, location 624 Miller Valley Road. The application fee has been paid and the sign has been posted for the required 20 days. Staff has reviewed the application and determined that it is in compliance and no public comments have been received.
Mr. Reeves, would you like to grace us with your presence and talk a little bit about Taco Don's?
You know, I'm glad you started off, Mayor Pro Tem, with the First Amendment. I'm a big fan of the First Amendment, I'm a big fan of the Second Amendment. I'm a bigger fan of the 21st Amendment, which was
Yeah.
prohibition. So that's why we brings us together to have a few beers and tacos. So, you know, as you know, I purchased Rosa's, and that's going great. And well, I didn't grow up here. I've loved Taco Don's from the first time I went there. And when I told a friend of mine who did grow up here, and his parents grew up here, I told him that I purchased Taco Don's, and he said, "Dude, you just bought a tiny piece of Prescott's soul." So my whole
like that.
goal, you know, is just to keep it the same and breathe a little life into it and do some maintenance.
Great.
Yep. You're doing a great job around town. You know, I think the best thing you do is just leave stuff alone. You know, people were went.
Restaurant Sue is doing nothing.
Right. I mean,
That's my staff.
So what kind of booze are you going to sell there?
Some beers, you know, Mexican beer. We're thinking about a margarita.
Margarita?
Yeah. Nice.
But again, no changes yet.
good.
Great.
Thanks, Skylar. Appreciate it. Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second. Let's vote.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Yes.
And Mayor Mangarelli?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Mayor, I move to approve recommendations for liquor license application number 95694 for a new Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Taco Don's, location 624 Miller Valley Road.
Second.
Motion and second. Let's vote.
Councilman Blair?
Tacos and beer, yes.
Councilman Good? Councilman Good?
See, como no?
Councilmember Roosing?
Yes, and thank you for investing in our community, Skylar.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
Cadillac margaritas and tacos. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Absolutely.
And Mayor Mangarelli?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Thank you. Let's move on to item 10A, please.
City of Prescott and Arizona Eco Development Letter of Intent.
So what we'll do here on this item, Mr. Palladini will do a brief presentation I've asked him to address any comments or questions we had from the study session at that same time after his presentation. Then I think we'll go to public comment, which I think we have a few folks that want to comment. And then after that public comment, we'll ask the applicant to speak for a few minutes about the annexation. And then we'll go to council before we go to vote. So, Mr. Palladini?
Okay, Mayor and Council, again, we obviously went over this a little earlier today at the study session. I'll try and shorten it even more. This is your opportunity to discuss and vote on and hopefully approve this letter of intent. Pretty significant day, pretty significant start of the process. And I want to emphasize it's the start of a process that if approved today, the application will go through Planning and Zoning Commission, as many meetings as necessary to talk about the development, the zoning of the parcels. There will be a 60-day comment period, after which the council will then address the issue and talk about annexation, talk about development and zoning, talk about a development agreement, talk about other ancillary agreements, and ultimately get to what we all, I think, hope to be is an approval. So that's what this starts today. So what does this do? Again, briefly, talking about 2 parcels of land. This south parcel, the city gets 475 acres of open space, permanent open space, as part of this transaction. Development is the yellow area. That's the private land that retains development. The housing portion of the development is west of the Peavine. The resort parcels are K and L. Earlier today we had some comments, and I'll just address those about the No Name Creek. The distance from the No Name Creek at its shortest point, I think, was measured. We sort of to the borderline is about 400 yards, give or take. It's 4 football fields, so a pretty significant distance. This map, again, this is a basic map. It will be finalized and fine-tuned and surveyed. Doesn't really do the spacing justice, so about 4 football fields. Additionally, I want to point out that this G parcel, the development parcel, No Name Creek and Granite Creek merge here or separate here. So what goes along parcel G is actually Granite Creek, not No Name Creek. So I want to kind of clear that up. We had that clarified. Additionally, the distance between this little green parcel here, which is also part of the 475, and here and the creek is about 300 yards, so 3 football fields. So again, this map doesn't really do the scope and scale justice, I think, of what we're really looking at. Is some significant piece of land. Also want to point out there was a lot of discussion about separation from the Peavine and the development. Again, the process where we go through Planning Commission, they'll talk about those kinds of things, setbacks from the Peavine Trail, setbacks from roads, what the development's sort of going to look like. That's what the process is for, the Planning Commission process. The letter of intent is intended to be the cornerstone, the foundation, the basic terms of a much more defined agreement. It sets the, even though it's non-binding, what it does is it sets the basic terms, and then we've all agreed on the basic terms, and then we refine it, and we insert the details and the definitions and those kinds of things. I also want to point out that even on this map, it shows a large swath of private open space retained by AD. That's basically creek bottom. And then within all of this development, you'll see, once it gets to development plans, you'll see additional private open space. It's basically part of the homeowner association type, like we see in other developments around. So it's not going to be a solid wall of houses, walls, buildings. There will be, the land will be developed. And then this area here, just from the last time we talked about this area here, this little thumb has actually gotten larger I forgot to point that out earlier. So it's pretty significant. It includes the rocks in there. There's a lot of talk about support of the original Save the Dells proposal, and this is pretty darn close to it. It's not exact, but it's a significant deal, and it's a product of compromise. That's how we got to this deal. I think holding out for precise number of acres, you don't get to the deal unless you're willing to compromise. But I'll tell you, there's another thing that makes this deal better, and this is not in any way casting aspersions at the Save the Dells proposal. There's a part of this that makes this deal better, and that's this. And that's the airport parcel, or the north parcel. The city gets 270 acres of land around the airport. That's that pink land, the pink space up there on the map. The city also acquires 130 acres, 131 acres, the orange area at the end of the runway. That is going to be price determined by an appraiser that we agree to. The appraiser will be an airport-type qualified appraiser, and that cost will be paid for 90% or more by FAA grants. The blue area here is airport industrial, so we're talking about job creation. We're talking about production. We're not talking about housing. The green area, the long strip, is natural open space. That allows for the Peavine Trail to continue all the way around the airport here and up into Chino Valley. So we have connection of the Peavine all the way from Chino Valley down to the Sundog area. So pretty significant deal. What it also does is provides, so that's what the city gets out of this deal. Pretty significant pieces of land, pretty significant agreements that were reached as part of the LOI that will be detailed out in a development agreement through the annexation and zoning process. What the city gives is 753 acre feet of potable water to the development. How that breaks out real quickly is this. The parcels are broken out in terms of where the water goes. Now, the AED can move water around. It just can't increase the water that it uses on the south parcel. So it can reduce the development on the south parcel, move some water to the other parcels. Bottom line, though, is 753 acre feet of water. And if you look at the right column, that's the development type rights, and the left column is the development rights. The right column are the water rights that are tied to that. Want to also point out that of the 753 acre feet, AED is going to convey back to the city or sever and transfer to the city 375 acre feet of surface water that it owns rights to on Watson Lake, about 2 vertical feet of water across the lake. So netting it out to about 350, 375. I can't do math right now, but again, if we're netting it out, it's really a pretty significant deal. I know originally there was a discussion about acre of land for an acre of water. Well, we're giving away we're giving up, I should say, about 375 net acre feet of water and getting nearly almost 1,000 acres of land, 900 acres of land of open space, a public open space, as well as the number of acres in the natural open space and all that is still significant. All of the land that gets developed with the use of city water in this transaction will be subject to city rules and regulations, pay impact fees, pay for the infrastructure. Water is going to be the recharge of that, or the affluent recharge is dedicated to permanent recharge, whether it's in the city or not in the city. There is one parcel real quickly, section 33, that will likely remain out of the city, that the city will provide water and sewer to at the developer's cost. 90% of that water, not only from 33, but from all the other development, will go back to the city as effluent for recharge purposes. The resort, again, parcels K and L are the resort parcel. It's going to be an ECOS type resort. The city's going to generate sales tax or TPT and bed tax from that development of 200 hotel type units. There'll be one crossing of the Peavine between parcels H and K to access the resort. Right now, it talks about at grade, but that's a significant improvement over what was originally proposed, which were 5 at grade crossings. So all in all, pretty happy with the outcome. A lot of work by a lot of people to get to this point. And so trying to make it kind of briefer than earlier, because you heard this before. Happy to answer any questions or leave up any maps or whatever you choose.
Yeah, leave the south annexation up if you don't mind, John.
Okay.
Can you summarize a little bit from the study session, some of the comments and questions that we heard? A lot of it was around parcels H, K, and L, the resort. CWAG had a statement as well.
So, right. So there's this sort of mantra, resort or nothing. And where we're talking about is K and L is the resort parcel. I don't think we have to say or nothing. It goes without saying. K and L is the resort. So all residential, the 850 units that the south parcel is entitled to is west of the Peavine. K and L east of the Peavine are the resort parcel. Like I said, I think I addressed the setback, the buffering from the Peavine. That's going to happen through the P&Z process and the council process. It's not really ripe for at this level of discussion because we don't really know what the development plan even looks like at this time. I think I addressed the separation of development from the No-Name Creek and Granite Creek. There was discussion about protecting Indian ruins. Again, something that can be discussed and the details of that worked out as part of the development agreement. Not really appropriate for this type of wave top type agreement. That's a detail that would have to be worked out, because this is a two-dimensional map. We don't even know what the topography looks like.
CWAG had some.
Right. There were 4 points I think they made, and this agreement covers 3 of those. About permanent recharge, I forget what they were off the top of my head, but there was one point they made that had to do with that Leslie Hoy made on the phone that had to do with rainwater harvesting. Again, something that could be discussed as part of a development agreement, but certainly way too in the weeds, with no disrespect, but too in the weeds for this type of agreement.
Yep. Very good. In section 33, just for clarity's sake, John, that would be either the county or it could be the town of Prescott Valley through an IGA. Right. All the water policies that we have in place would apply.
The current water policy that we have that allowed us to do an IGA with Chino Valley to water a small section of commercial land, commercial zoning in Chino Valley, that same process policy could be used to provide water to section 33 by way of an IGA with the county or with the town of Prescott Valley if 33 is annexed into the town. The reason that Prescott really can't annex 33 is because this state trust land is between the city and 33. So even when and if this parcel's annexed, doesn't meet the statutory requirements to annex 33. So pretty much legally, physically impossible to annex 33 unless the city annexes state trust land. Don't want to get into that, but that's asking for urban sprawl if you annex 33.
Yeah, residential only.
Pretty much.
With that water.
It'll ask for significant entitlements, significant water, utilities, and all those kinds of things. The state land is in the business of selling land at its highest and best use and highest and best value to fund schools. That's their constitutional mandate. So by doing this workaround, if we ever wanted to annex this parcel, we have a lot more leverage than otherwise.
Yep, very good. I think that covers the comments and questions for the most part from the study session. Let's go to public comment here or remote. What do you have, Sarah?
We don't have anyone at either of the remote locations, and I only have one comment that was received that was specifically requested to be read during the voting meeting. And it is from Thomas Slayback. Mayor and council members, I request that this letter become part of the official record of the Arizona Eco Development negotiations. I have a question to ask about the LOI and some general comments on the content of the letter. I wish to have my question answered publicly during the meeting. The letter states, all AED lands provided with potable water by the city shall be connected to the city water and sanitary sewer systems and will comply with the city's water use rules and regulations. Does this mean that the effluent generated by the city-provided water from the AED lands will go to permanent safe yield, meaning that the city will receive no recharge credits from the state to pump additional groundwater? General comments on the letter. The viewshed of the Granite Dells from the Peavine Trail must be protected. Allowing houses to be built up to the boundary of the rail trail's right-of-way, only separated by a backyard fence, as has happened along the east side north of Old 89A, is not acceptable. Sections H and K should not be allowed to have housing that visually impacts the trail corridor. All Native American ruins must be preserved in place, including those on ridgelines that are visible from the trail. This is especially true of the sites near the confluence of No Name Creek with Granite Creek. Housing must not be allowed within the parcels designated for a resort. The resort should be constructed to blend with the natural surroundings so as not to sore thumb when viewing from Iron King Trail. The open space surrounding Granite Creek should be designed as public open space to allow continued construction of our public trail system. No at-grade crossings of the trail should be allowed. Trail users should not have to play chicken with multiple lanes of traffic while continuing on the trail, as currently happens at the Road 39 crossing. The new crossing must either be an over or underpass. As mayor and council, you are entrusted to protect the public investment of labor and dollars we have made in the creation of Prescott's greatest tourist destination, the Granite Dells.
Okay. And no other public comment?
I don't have anything else that I've received online, and I've not received any public comment cards from anyone in the audience.
Mr. Palladini, you want to address again the permanent recharge?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Right.
Yes, that whether, I said this earlier, and it bears repeating, it's worth repeating that the land that is annexed into the city, which is south and north parcel, versus Section 33, there will be no difference in terms of water and sewer, whether it's annexed in or to the city or not. In other words, the Section 33 development will have to follow all of the city's water use rules and regulations, and all of the effluent generated from Section 33, just like south and north parcel, will go to permanent recharge, consistent with the Prop 400 city charter language.
Very good. Mr. Lamar?
Just to reiterate something I said this morning, in terms of the Peavine crossing, I think there's a commitment on the city's part and the applicant's part to find a way to separate vehicular traffic from pedestrian and bicycle traffic. What that looks like is going to be determined based on the topo out there and where it makes sense to go over or under, but I think everybody's committed to trying to find a way to avoid cars and people interacting. So.
Very good. All right, if there's no other public comment, I'll invite Mr. Giese down to speak for the applicant. Pull that microphone down there, Jason, if you don't mind. Thank you.
My mom would get mad if I didn't spit my gum out first. Jason Giese, 923 East Gurley, Suite 203. I represent Arizona Eco Development. Anybody have questions for me? Happy to answer them.
Any questions from the council? All right.
I can deal with that. Thank you.
Well done. I just want to say this has been long and arduous at times, but worth it. There's two people at the table here, or two parties at the table here that made this happen. Stuart Swanson with Arizona Eco Development has really stepped up, in my opinion, to offer us 745 acres of land. That's very significant for our city. This is a deal that if we can get to the finish line, I always say we're not there, but we can see the finish line from here. This 745 acres is extremely important to the viability of our city. Of course, the Granite Dells are important. They're great natural open space, but the airport is the real important piece here for our long-term economic viability. And to have those 270 acres plus the 130 acres that we can purchase with an FAA grant is a tremendous opportunity for our city for long-term economic viability and creating jobs up there around the airport. And so I would first like to say thank you to Stuart Swanson and Jason Giese for continuing to work tirelessly to get this deal done. Thanks to Michael Lamar and Joe Baines, among others, here at the city for your work to represent the city well. And then thanks to all of the stakeholders, Save the Dells, CWAG, Prescott Creeks, the Highland Center, there's probably others I'm missing, for helping inform this deal along the way. You know, while it wasn't always easy, we appreciate all the input that we receive from the stakeholders around the community, and it's getting us to a good place in this deal where we have this LOI in front of us, and I think it's really the marching orders to move forward to ensure that we get this deal done as it moves through the process. So thank you to all those parties, and I think this is a landmark deal. I'm very excited to be a small part of it, and I would open it up for council comments. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been smiling all day. I've been really looking forward to where we are today. And a lot of people, as the mayor has said, have worked to get to this effort. Jason, Joe, Michael. So just appreciate everybody having the tenacity to stay with it. It is monumental. I don't think we even really understand how big this is for the city of Prescott. And I've talked to Jason and to Michael, you know, this is a legacy that we're going to look back on and say, wow, we had a part of that. And every citizen that stepped forward and said, we want this to happen, had a part in making this today. We already have 1,350 beautiful acres that belong to the city in the Dells and the lakes, and they're magnificent. Today, we're talking about adding another 475 acres of probably some of the most pristine. We're talking about the Point of Rocks. We're talking about No Name Creek and the riparian forest that Joe often speaks to. So I'm just so pleased, and I hope that we don't get stuck in the weeds on this, and we need to keep this moving for our citizens. What a great legacy. And you know, Steve Shiska has often said to me, you know, Billy, if you want something bad enough, you need to be willing to walk away from it. And but we all stayed with it, and here we are today. So congratulations to the city of Prescott. I will tell you, our citizens are the ones that are really going to benefit from what's happening today. So let's keep this moving. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Scholl.
Thanks, Mayor. There's a couple of things I want to emphasize. I think it's very easy, and I find myself doing this, wanting to think about the details now. And there is a lot more to discuss, and I think it's important to remember that this is really the 10,000-foot level of this deal. And there will continue to be a lot of public input moving forward, and so I hope people don't lose their passion and interest in this project and to continue to follow it as we move forward. And we still will have that 60-day public comment period, so make sure that you do let us know what you want and that you follow the P&Z meetings and meet us back here when it comes before council. So I think that's just a really important piece of this. And what I really particularly like about this letter of intent, and earlier at the meeting we talked about how this is kind of atypical of this process to have this letter, is it really gives everyone a good idea of what the deal is going to look like. There should hopefully be no surprises, no disappointments moving forward, and so that gives me a peace of mind that we are moving in the right direction, and that we can look back to this and know that this is where we're going. And for me, you know, if it strays too much from the LOI, you know, it'll definitely question my support of the project. So I think it's a way to also hold the applicant accountable and hold ourselves accountable to what we've agreed upon. So I think those are just important points to make, and I hope that the citizens continue to have an interest in this project and let us know how you feel.
Very good. Thank you. Councilman Siska.
Thanks, Mayor. You know, an old boss of mine used to say, when you smell a deal, shut up. So I'm done.
Councilman Good.
That's good.
Well, I agree. I think we have the makings of an outline that virtually everybody who has participated in the long debate and controversial conditions has weighed in on over the last 2+ years. So think we probably could have got to this point a lot earlier, but I'm not going to complain about that because we finally got here. Now it's up to the developer and the Planning and Zoning Commission to take this general outline and try to define it in a way that will be much more certain that we reach the final point that we can agree to. I am somewhat disappointed that we have a planning and zoning group now, all the commissioners there. There's not a single one that served with me when I was on the commission and working through the Deepwell Ranch planned area development as well. That was already annexed. So we were just working on some of the details of that developmental agreement and the zoning involved. So we're going to have to support and keep a close eye on the Planning and Zoning Commission so they understand the magnitude of the deliberations that they're going to be required to look through. They're going to be required to make sure the zoning is appropriate, and it's a pretty big responsibility. So I would encourage everyone who continues to follow this process to continue to follow as the Planning and Zoning Commission takes this project on and works with the developer to make sure the intent here is actually created properly. So it certainly is, we've come a long way, baby. And I think we're very, very close. When we look at the water issues, when we look at protecting our water resources, when we look at providing water outside city limits under water service agreements, when we look at the public access, the primary view shed, the total amount of acreage that we've been able to expect will be included in this final agreement. Originally, we were looking at maybe 5 crossings of the Peavine Trail, and now we're down to 1, and it looks like it most likely will end up with a crossing that won't have the kind of conflict that we were concerned about originally with hikers and bikers and equestrian users, etc., along with the vehicles that are going to be going to and from the resort. We've reached, I think, a very, very good agreement here with this letter of intent. So let's keep in mind that we still have a ways to go, and I don't envy the P&Z commissioners having to take this on without someone like a Terry Marshall who might have been reappointed and could have guided them along the way in the process. So I'll be watching very, very closely, and if I can offer any guidance or comments to those commissioners, I will do my best to do so. So I want to thank the mayor, and I want to thank city manager. I want to thank the developers. Paul, thank you very much for getting this at least close to the finish line here. And it's going to be a huge relief when we finally do cross that finish line. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Blair.
I'll try not to be too long. But I want to assure Councilman Good, when I was on Planning Commission 20 plus years ago, I wasn't a lackey. And I don't think the Council Appointment Committee, which I was on, that appointed Phil Good to the Planning Commission, we didn't think he was a lackey. And I'm sitting here right now telling you the people we have on our Planning Commission will do just fine. Also, I want to share with the fact that this is a big piece of the puzzle, and thank you guys very much. But I think it needs to be recognized, as I hear quite often, the city of Prescott doesn't do enough. What I mean by that, since 2000, 1998, 97, purchasing Watson and Willow Lake. Joe can correct me if I'm wrong. And to today, this city and the councils that have been here prior to us have never turned down a piece of property in the Granite Hills. We have over 2,000 acres out there now. This adds to the picture. Thank you, Joe, and all the efforts that you've made. We went from having zero trail infrastructure in this community 20 years ago to having over 100 miles of quality trails that people all over this world come to visit. Thank you again, guys. This adds to the overall puzzle, the vision that we've always had. We knew it was there. It took us a while to get here. But however, again, this council's never walked away from anything that was important to this community. And this council didn't walk away either, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the council?
Mayor Kathy Rusin.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Save the Dell and their supporters and the community. Save the Dell really struck a chord in the community because it was all about maintaining the wonderful quality of life that we have here in Prescott. We must realize that this quality of life must be fought for, or we're going to end up looking like an LA suburb. And if it wasn't for Save the Dell being so brave and standing up and speaking out, there's no doubt in my mind that the Dells and the AED annexation would have just looked like something out of an LA suburb. So I'm just wanted to say, please, we cannot rest on our laurels, and there is much more work to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. If there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve the letter of intent between the City of Prescott and Arizona Eco Development, LLC.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Let's take a vote.
Councilman Blair.
Absolutely.
Councilman Good.
Yes.
Councilmember Rusing.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl.
Yes.
Councilman Sischka.
A hearty aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr.
Another absolutely.
And Mayor Mangarelli.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Very good. Thank you. All right, let's move on to item 10B, please.
Adoption of resolution number 2020-1749 in support of the world's oldest rodeo.
So it looks like we have some folks from the rodeo here. JC Trujillo, Chris Graff, and Ron Owsley. I think, JC, you called me late in March, somewhere there, and you said, Mayor, are we going to have a rodeo this summer? And I said, I sure hope so. Even if it's just you and I out there in the arena, we're going to have the 133rd annual rodeo one way or another. But I appreciate you guys, all the work you've done here. This is, you've had a lot thrown at you, a lot of different guidelines and regulations coming from a lot of different groups and agencies, and you stuck with it here, and I'm grateful we're going to see the rodeo happen.
I'm very grateful too, and I'd like to say I was born and raised here in Prescott, and so I know that I've never seen that 4th of July without the Prescott Frontier Days. So we're going to have another one. Go ahead, Chris.
So before we get too far, what we want to do, one of the things we do each year is we recap the 132nd, which turned out to be a great rodeo. And I'm going to let JC talk about how that went, 'cause we had some excellent contestants and a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, we had a great rodeo, every year, and we'll see as we move on with the ticket sales and things. As for the last 10 years, the ticket sales in Prescott has just grown in leaps and bounds every year. Last year, the 32nd Prescott Frontier Days, we paid out $244,470 to the Cowboys. It was a purse of $125,000 added by the Prescott Frontier Days, and we ended up with 566 contestants this last year. And that was an unbelievable thing. And as we move on, we had a giant ticket sales. As you can see here, how the ticket sales has rocketed. We have been very proud of that rodeo and the ticket sales and the exposure that we get. Chris, you might want to tell them about this next slide is the True West Best Award. We have got that from the magazine, the Best Western magazine, True West. It's been a big thing for us, but it's been an honor too, of course, for us to be recognized as the Prescott Frontier Days and the best one to come and watch for sure.
So you can kind of take a look here as to sellouts. And of course, we were looking at about 5 sellouts last year, and then the other ones are really good attendance too. I really can't complain on any of them. All 50 states, and that's just fantastic. A bunch of major cities, as you can see. 21 international folks that showed up, and that's countries that actually came and they had attendees from that country. And you can see all the folks that visit our website annually. Quite a few there too, so. You want to talk?
I better say something about this. Our rodeo last year was a great rodeo. Of course, this year we've had to exclude some events that we have had in the past. The exceptional rodeo, we'll go into that. And of course, the old timers, we've had to cancel those events because of what's going on in our world today. The 2020 rodeo, we're really excited. We've got our specialty act this year is the Rieta Ranch Cowgirl Cowboys. And they're trick riders and trick ropers, and they've been here in Prescott before, and it'll be quite a great treat. Another new thing we have coming this year is the Broken Spoke Clydesdales. You can recall the big, nice horses that we've had the past few years, the Diamond Z. Well, they've kind of went into retirement, and so for the first time, we're going to have these. There's 6 Clydesdales drawing a wagon. I seen them at the Denver Stock Show and Rodeo this year, and they're spectacular. They come out of Oklahoma, and we're really looking forward to seeing the Broken Spoke Clydesdales again. And of course, we will have the Vold Rodeo Company. They've been here for over 35 years, and they will be bringing about 5 or 6 other stock contractors with them. So that way, they just bring their best of the best to our rodeo. So every performance, no matter what performance you're up during those 7 days and 8 performances, as a contestant, you're guaranteed to be getting on a good horse, a good bull, or roping a good steer or a good calf. And we take a lot of pride at the Prescott Frontier Days in the quality of stock that we got. And you know, this year, it's been unbelievable that, of course, you know, all the rodeos have been put off, and not many rodeos, hadn't been any rodeos going on. So, and there's been a lot of rodeos canceled. So over the 4th of July this year, which traditionally there's a jillion rodeos going on, we're going to be the biggest rodeo dollar-wise in the country. The Prescott Frontier Days will be. And another thing that we had 566 contestants last year. We have 718 entered this year. So we have filled every event completely up, and we have a limit on a lot of events. We have a limit of 84 barrel racers, and there was 184 barrel racers that entered. But so we've got the best of the best coming to the Prescott Frontier Days, and we are looking forward to a great, safe rodeo. Go ahead, Chris.
Absolutely. So each year too, Prescott Frontier Days comes back and invests in of course, the grounds there and tries to keep that going. And last year, you can see, and it'll be more detail on another slide, but about 22,000 that we documented. Of course, Prescott is the home of the world's oldest rodeo with Rockin' Action each 4th of July. And that's our motto, we rodeo, we give. Here's some of the investments we make, and of course, the breast cancer and Tough Enough to Wear Pink is a huge cause for us, and we truly believe in that. And the courthouse lighting, and so on and so forth down there. Investments, United Way, cattle growers, just throughout the Heritage Center. We have a booth down there. So kind of see the attendees. 2019, you see how it continues to grow. And we're great to have the fair there too. Little shot of Tough Enough to Wear Pink. Invite y'all to come. I believe that's on the 1st of August this year. We had to move it back just a little bit, but we'd love to see y'all out there for that.
You know, Chris, I just like to say about that Tough Enough to Wear Pink. It's a great program that they contribute to breast cancer and all kinds of different cancer, and it's near and dear to me, my heart, being a cancer survivor, and it's something we really take pride in.
So here's a little bit of, we added 200 square foot to the deck the year before. Some handrail down on the other end that was greatly needed. We had some guests that continue to ask for that. We put that up there as a safety enhancement. Baseboards on the old Doc Pardee building, we're fixing that up with top of the line window coverings, and made some electrical upgrades to the vendor area. And as a lucky foresight, we bought some more pins, and obviously with all these cowboys coming, we're still not going to have enough pins, but we did that, so that was a great investment. So one of the things that I want to talk about what's coming up, we got a great lineup of cowboys, and from the arena side, it just couldn't be any better action coming this year. As JC said, we canceled the Old Timers and the Happy Hearts Exceptional Heart just because of the high risk in that. But we also started meeting back in March as a Prescott Frontier Days, and then we got city government and Yavapai Health Department on there, trying to help us form what it's going to look like, mainly for the spectators. Reduce vendors, create more space, moving some restrooms around, trying to keep the lines from congregating in one spot, things like that. And through those meetings, we were able to develop a pretty good kind of list of things that we're going to look for, and this will be our guidance going into it. And it's the health and well-being of everyone is paramount to Prescott Frontier Days and our partners. And the capacity of our event has been substantially lowered to accommodate for that physical distancing. Grandstands will be sanitized before each performance. Corporate hospitality, sponsor house hospitality has been spread out to 2 buildings instead of 1. And then rodeo hospitality will be in the Mackin basement, which gives us, we're utilizing more and more of the property as it goes on too, so there's benefit in that long term. You know, the bathrooms will be monitored and watched during the whole performance. Additional hand washing stations. We purchased 24, 25 sanitizer deals, and they'll be filled. Be monitoring those. We've made some pre-made Wrangler masks, or we have some bandanas for our volunteers. We will strongly encourage they wear those, and that's subject to change as things change. It changes daily anymore, as we all know. I want to thank, though, the city, the mayor, the city leadership, Leslie Horton at the Yavapai Board of Supervisors, because with your partnership, this made fans possible at this. So let JC talk about what he's got going on with TV.
Well, we were really fortunate this year. We've got the Cowboy Channel coming in. They're going to televise all 8 performances, and that goes nationwide, and we're really thrilled about that. One thing is, you know, our Skybox, we canceled it out. That's 400 seats of top dollar seats that we usually have. And so having this TV money come in is going to sure help us out there, you know, and we know we're not going to be that big blue line on how the ticket sales works. I don't think it's going to be real high this year. But the main thing is, for 133 years, we're going to be able to have a rodeo.
That's right.
I don't know much more needs to be said. We're working on some other possible fan experiences that could happen. We're going to give it our all. We'll do everything we can. You know, this community has supported us for years, and we're going to do what we can to give back that support and make sure everybody sees it that wants to. But it's on the Cowboy Channel. So thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. And again, I'm very proud to be part of the Prescott community, and I'm really proud to be part of the Prescott Rodeo. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks for coming in today. Who would have thought we'd be excited about 25% attendance at our rodeo? But we're pretty excited about that. So again, I appreciate your diligence on this, guys. It's not easy to accommodate, but you've done a great job working with, especially Leslie Horton's been very helpful at the county health department, helping implement these things. I know PRCA's got some guidelines that you guys have been looking at as well, and so great job. This is very important to our city. It's very important to our county, you know, to keep our Western heritage alive, and it's also a symbol of our freedom. And so very important that we have this rodeo this year, and I can't say it enough that your work here, we value your work and your effort. It's been I applaud you for what you've done. Questions, comments from the council before we do a motion? Not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 2020-1749.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Let's vote.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
An enthusiastic yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Yes.
And Mayor Mingarelli?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you all. Let's move on to item 10C, please.
Approval to apply for and accept funds appropriated under the CARES Act.
Afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Dennis Light, Fire Chief, and current applicant agency for our cost recovery efforts related to the COVID. This afternoon, we're seeking your approval to apply for and accept grants monies that are being made available under the Arizona Corona Aid Relief and Economic Securities Act. This item provides for the application and acceptance of $5,085,816 of grant monies appropriated from the federal government for distribution through the state of Arizona. The Arizona CARES Act was basically established to partially offset and reimburse counties, cities, and towns for public health and safety, regular salary, and employee-related costs incurred between March 1st of 2020 and December 30th of 2020. For this purpose, public safety entities include sheriff's deputies, police officers, 911 dispatchers, fire and emergency services. The funding is being made available and will be utilized for current fiscal year expenses related to the provision of fire, police, and 911 services, and work towards further stabilization of the general fund. And with that, I'd entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate your work on this. This is important, and I like the way the governor has structured this so that it gives us a lot of local control here, where we can use these monies to backfill all those costs associated with our first responders, and then that frees up money for us to do what I see as economic development and investment in our community here locally. So this is good news for the city of Prescott. There's a lot of work to do to figure out what to do with these monies, which is not our job at this very moment. Rather, we're accepting these CARES dollars. Is there any questions, comments for Chief at this point? Any public comment?
No, Mayor.
We'll entertain a motion then.
Mayor, I move to approve application for and acceptance of funds made available under the AZ CARES Act.
Second?
Motion and second. Let's take a vote.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Yes.
And Mayor Mangarelli?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Let's move on to item D, please.
Adoption of resolution number 2020-1749, approving transfer of certain fiscal year 2020 budget appropriations.
Thank you, Sarah. Mark Woodfill, Budget and Finance Director. Today, throughout the year, we'll have things that come up, and when we bring them to council, we'll let you know, yes, we have appropriation to do this. It will be part of the transfer that we bring you at the end of the year. Well, it's the end of the year. Here's your transfer. Just running through some of the big ones here. The first one, we did a $16 million debt issue. That was part of the streets fund, which saved money. It was a refunding issue, so it saved money over the life of the bond of about $1.5 million. There was enough appropriation in there for a part of that, but we have to move $8 million worth of appropriation to cover the rest of that to make it illegal. The Arizona CARES that the chief was just talking about, those expenses happened from March. The timeline on that grant is from March 1st to December 30th. The expenses for public safety costs have to happen. We are so fortunate here that we will make our $5 million probably by the end of June, so we have to do a budget appropriation to move those in this current fiscal year. Also, we're going to talk a little bit more about revenue projections, but as we look at the revenue projections that we will be receiving through the end of June, we need a little additional appropriation in the PSPRS tax fund to be able to send all the money that we anticipate collecting to up to our trust funds. So obviously good news there. We're moving another $750,000 there. And then there's several little grants that happen throughout the year, private grants, public grants, and we're just moving appropriation around to cover those. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any question about these budget amendments.
Questions or comments from the council? Yeah, Councilman Good.
So this grant requires us to pay for these public safety funds by the end of this calendar year.
Yes.
But we're able to allocate some of the public safety funding through the end of our fiscal year so that we'll be able to qualify and then be able to use the balance for potentially non-public safety options.
Right. The CARES funds are to replace the cost of public safety regular time. So then the $5 million will be relieved in the general fund, which would normally have paid those, and council will be able to allocate that to the projects that it deems appropriate in the new fiscal year, in fiscal year 21.
And looking at those frequently asked questions that were included in the backup, it does allow us a lot of discretion on how we can use the balance for maybe projects that are very important to the future economic development of the city without having to totally focus on things like police overtime during protests and things like that. So looks like this helps us to have more flexibility as we move into the consequences of some of the economic conditions that we're seeing and probably will continue to see.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Public comment?
No, Mayor.
Entertain a motion?
Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 2020-1746.
Second.
Motion and second. Let's take a vote.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing? Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr? And Mayor Mangarelli?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Let's move on to item E, please.
Adoption of resolution number 1747, adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 2021 and setting the public hearing for the final budget, expenditure limitation, and tax levies for the city of Prescott.
Thank you, Sarah. Again, Mark Woodfill, Budget and Finance Director. Yes, this is a tentative budget adoption, as we've talked many times before. So just briefly, tentative budget sets the maximum limit that you can spend, unlike budgets in business or other things. Government's budget, local government's budget, is our legal limit. We cannot spend it anywhere that's not allocated as part of this. The final budget will be considered after public hearings, as Sarah pointed out, on the 23rd. We do have some new revenue numbers for that have come in from the Department of Revenue, so I want to go over those briefly, just kind of as a give you an update on what we're seeing in revenue. I put this up. This is the composition of our tax collection by sector, and again, the point here, the point that I try to get across here is our tax pie, if you will, pie chart. 40% is the general merchandise. The backbone of the city are these multiple general merchandise type stores and activity in that area that really, is a great foundation when all you have is really sales tax. Auto sales, of course, construction, which is great at 10% of our pie. It's important part. It is more of a one-time expense. You only build a house once. So as far as reoccurring expense, it's a little not as good as others. Others is our general. Rentals, of course, are always stable or good source of money. As we get into the others, especially when you look at hotel and restaurants, which are obviously going to be the sectors you see most significantly affected by the shutdowns. Hotel, and this is by tax collection, so hotel is at that 5.85%. So looking at 4% at the 5.85, hotels make up maybe 2% of the local government tax pie in the general fund, which is an important part, and I'm not minimizing it at all. It's just when you see weakness in a piece of your tax pie, you like it to be in the smaller pie, part of the pies. So with that, the stupid thing messed up my colors. Sorry about that. That's why I usually use my laptop. These were the numbers we got for March. I'm sorry, the down lines are supposed to be red, not clear. But you get the idea. That's the numbers we saw. Each month, taxable activity happens in March. Businesses report that to Department of Revenue in April. We get it by the middle of May in that case, and that's how it works each month. So the activity that we had at the workshop was just reported. Now we have another month of activity. So March was actually changed a little bit. So if you compare this to what we had, you would see that it has changed a little bit. And these slides for the public and and everybody in the audience are available on our website out there. So April, you see some additional numbers here as we look at it. We have the general merchandise, and to give it context, I'm also going to put up the year-to-date. This is the 10 months fiscal year-to-date averages in these areas. So general merchandise, again, our biggest piece of the pie, was up 6% in April, and that makes 11% year-to-date. We had some great months prior to the shutdown, which really help offset some of these losses. Cars are at 14% down, but as a whole for the year, for the 10 months, not full year, but for the fiscal year to date, they were at 4% up over the prior year. Construction had a huge month, and that's what you see with construction is construction will be down 30% one month and up 40%. It's more about the timing of the projects, and obviously right now everybody's constructing. We're doing roads, we're doing sewer mains, the hospital's building a wing. There's a lot of big construction going on. So we had a huge month. But if you look 10 months to date, construction's up 10%, which is great. But the 40 is a little misleading, but that's just the way you see construction. Again, we don't usually do monthly tax information because of the spikes and the difficulty to explain those spikes. But very important as we work our way through this next year, I think, to look at it. Others, rentals, and utilities are all pretty level for the year. Looking at home improvement, of course, if anybody has gone to a hardware store or a garden center or any of the other home improvement stores, you have seen this 28% increase in business yourself. It puts us up 8% for the year as a whole, which is good. Restaurants down 52 again. We estimated 60. They're at 52, about where we thought. That brings them down 5 for the year as a whole. Not bad considering all things. Obviously, it's going to be really hard on the restaurants, especially the smaller restaurants. What that means as we move forward, how many will stay in business, how many will be able to reopen, is really going to be the key on the recovery. Again, hotels, whoops, sorry. Lost my place there. Hotels down 79. Again, we thought they'd be about 80, about right. The year-to-date puts them down at 9 for the year as a whole, or the 10 months, which is pretty good. All things considered, but again, hard on the individual hotels, and also how that they will come out of this, how they will reopen, and how will that rebound, and how quickly is going to be key to the recovery. Put this out. This is the taxable activity by month just for the last 10 months that we've been talking about, to give you an idea. As you can see, March was revised. When we looked at it back at the workshop, it was even. There was no increase, no decrease. With the late filers that were reported with the April reports, we were actually up 2% in March. I'm going to use my laptop next time. Sorry about that. April is down 3%. Again, we have construction that is pretty high. As you can see, as we look through here, I went ahead and plotted the average year-to-date as we proceeded through the year. That's the orange line here. And then I did it without considering construction because of that spikiness of construction that you have. And as you can see, like in September, construction actually pulled us down because they had one of those years where, no projects happen, or not years, but months where projects were lower, no payments. It's just a gap month. It happens. But, everything else was actually pretty much on track. We have a pretty solid upward line if we take out construction. But the same way in April, when everything is pulling it down a little bit, the higher construction actually pulls it back up. So just to give you an idea how the tax base works, very good numbers, all things considered. Still a lot of uncertainty when it comes to small businesses and how the recovery will look as we get out of this, which is why the budget that we're bringing forward has a lot of contingencies to enable council to respond as needed as we move through this year. Changes since the budget workshop. At the budget workshop, you had a $201 million budget. Obviously, we are adding contingency spending capacity out there for the Arizona CARES funding, so council can decide what to do with that in the year. So that increased our budget. And then there was an increase requested for Charlotte Hall to bring their funding and the bed tax back up to what it had been in prior years, and that's an additional 10. So our new budget is 206,000. Here's a our 206 million, here's the comparison. You can see if you compared this to the one we did at the workshop, you would see the increase, of course, in the contingency line item for that additional 5 million. Everything else is pretty much the same. So with that, the resolution before you adopts the budget schedules, which are a group of schedules which will be posted on our website if approved by council. And this schedule here, which is A, which is really hard to see on the screen, these are schedules dictated by the state. Zoom to page. Okay. didn't help a lot. But this will be published in the newspaper with notice of the public hearings. This is a summary of the overall budget by category and the availability of funds. There are, I believe, 7 more schedules here, all very good, very important, but I won't take the time to walk through them right now. They are posted on our website if council adopts this, and we'd be glad to answer any public concerns or comments on the schedules or council, or if you have a particular schedule you'd like to see, we can go through them now.
Thank you, Mark. Questions, comments from the council?
I do.
Councilman Blair.
Employee pay raises. I'm not going to let up on this one, guys. So I want to tell Mark and also the city manager and Tyler for bringing me the information I asked for, which was how much does it cost each department for a 3% raise. And the number was wrong, and I appreciate you stepping up and looking at the wrong number. And it was stated in the paper as well, that it would cost the city $1.7 million, which was not the right number. So the actual right number for a 3% raise across the board citywide was $588,000. What came out of the general fund would be $385,000, less than a fire truck. And the headlines in the paper was, City of Prescott's not giving their employees a raise. I'm still telling you, everybody here, I'm offended by that. You can see the numbers haven't gone down like we thought they were going to go down. I want to relook at that pay raise for our employees, because I think what the ultimate should be in the newspaper tomorrow is council reconsiders employees' pay raises up front instead of not being a contingency, and not put our employees at the back seat of the bus. So I won't get off this one. I might be a vote no on the budget because I'm totally aggravated. I've been here for 20 years. I've seen this happen. This is the 3rd time. I'm not pleased with it. Yeah, sure, things went down a little bit, but our employees still have stood strong through this COVID-19. Our police officers have been down there on the square. We've got our firefighters out there being spit on, our police officers being criticized throughout the national news. And we're sitting here telling them they're not worth a 3% raise, in my opinion. And I know it's probably not yours, but that's okay. We all have opinions, but that's where I stand on this overall. City manager, Mark, as well as Jody, I think this budget is absolutely wonderful, but I'm just aggravated in the fact that it had to come out to say our employees aren't getting a raise because of this. That was the wrong statement to our employees.
Thank you, Councilman Blair. I appreciate those comments. I was not here previously for that workshop. You know, these are difficult times that we're walking through. Fluid is a word that I've used a number of times to try to figure out, in terms of decision making, you know, we're all trying to figure out what the next day, the next week, and the next month looks like. I think since that workshop, we have some information that's helpful. Particularly these April numbers, which really aren't that bad, to your point, Councilman. And I think the other thing that's happened is the money from the CARES Act could influence our decisions as well, because we didn't know that was on the table at the time. So I think there's some more information here that could help inform our decisions moving forward. I would agree with you that we don't want to send the wrong message to our employees at this time, particularly with the angst out there of our first responders across the nation, which is not true. It is not true of Prescott, Arizona. We are grateful for our first responders, particularly our police at this time, and the work that they do. It saddens me to see what happens across the country with defunding. I don't understand it. So, Councilman, I think we can revisit this. You know, this is a process we're going through, and we can take a harder look with more information that we have in front of us at this time. Any other questions, comments from the council?
I just have a comment. I understood that the money was actually put into the budget as a contingency.
That's correct.
Okay. And as a contingency, would, let's say the contingency started in September, and we said, okay, you know, we've got enough money, we'll be able to give 3% raises to everybody. Does that go back to
It would be
July
retroactive.
1st, it would be retroactive. I wouldn't mind continuing to have a conversation about this. But I also think that we need to be aware of the fact that we ain't seen the end of this thing. So I would feel comfortable with a contingency with retroactive. But also would feel comfortable continuing to talk like like Councilman Blair suggests.
I'd like to make a point too that's somewhat related. You know, one of the more interesting things in the data is the dramatic decrease in the service sector, specifically hotels, restaurants, bars, really speaks to the importance of diversifying our economic development opportunities, because those sectors represent so many employable positions in this community. Those are the people that are unemployed or in those sectors. And even though our tax receipts are okay, our community is not okay if there's a bunch of people that don't have a job now that had it 8 weeks ago.
Our city manager, 25, 30, 40% cut in their pay, even though they may still have a job.
Other questions, comments from the council at this time?
Just one. I mean, I hear the comment. I don't make decisions for the private sector, and I'm sorry that a lot of them are out of a job or don't have a job or have been reduced in their job. But we have people that work for the city of Prescott that are providing services to every person out there. They didn't step back and say we're not coming to work. They're here. So I look at them as two different things. You can't put the private sector and the public sector in the same box and analyze them the same way. You just can't do it. And I'm still offended by the headlines saying we're not giving our employees a raise. Damn it, that's the wrong thing to say.
And I actually think that headline was in error.
Yeah,
That's not really what we said.
I mean, I think the takeaway should have been, and I'm not at all any way, shape, or form upset with the paper. Sometimes they get things not quite right.
Actually, the article was right on.
It was.
It was just the headline.
It's not a no. It's, hey, let's wait and see. Which, to Councilman Blair's point, it still isn't where he is. But I think under the conditions, the rest of you felt like, hey, let's wait and see seemed like a prudent course of action. I don't know. I am pleasantly surprised that April was not more dramatic in terms of a decrease in revenue. I'm actually shocked. And if we see upticks from a 3% reduction, maybe during the worst shutdown that I've ever seen in my lifetime, then by fall, I think that revisiting this is reasonable. But I think there's a lot yet to be determined.
Other questions, comments?
I have a question. Blair talked about going back and rethinking this. Do we have time to go back and rethink this, or is this approving a tentative budget?
Because it's already a contingency in the budget, it's completely at your discretion to allocate it as raises and take it out of contingency, or use the contingencies for the raise.
I would suggest that if they got their raises and things went down, that you would debit the departments 3% of the employees that are employed by those departments. Those departments can shrink their budget by 3%. So in other words, they have programs within their individual budgets, do they not?
They do.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Public Works, whoever it is. So if we gave them a 3% raise, and if things fell by the wayside or went down, then the city manager would simply have to ask each department to reduce their budget by 3%. But your employees stay whole.
Councilman Good?
Well, I, as you probably expect, disagree with Councilman Blair. We've got 2 months of taxable activity, and we're trying to project into the future where I'm glad that we're not seeing as precipitous a decline as we were expecting, but we still have a lot of people that were out of work. We have businesses closed. We have some businesses who have permanently closed. And when things start to be able to rebound, if we go into phase 2, whether those people who are unemployed now are going to find employment is a big question mark in my mind. We have the biggest unemployment rate drop in the history of my, I think it's exceeding even the Great Depression at this point. How long will that last? What will be the long-term consequences? We simply don't know the answer to that. So to try to give some employee a raise and then expect to be able to take it back if it turns out that some of these scenarios are more serious than we are looking at right now, I think is definitely the wrong thing to do.
I didn't say anything
So,
about taking it back.
You're going to cut it.
You're going to reduce the department.
Yeah, just a
Let
minute.
me finish. So I think as long as we hold on to this contingency option, and if it turns out that we don't have as serious of a decline as a lot of people are projecting, we have the ability to do that. But keep in mind, these are tax dollars. They come from economic activity. And we've got to honor not only the taxpayers and the businesses and the economic generation of these tax dollars. That's our duty to make sure that we take that responsibility and the fiduciary duty of these tax dollars to the taxpayers first, and then provide for our staff and our public safety particularly. So I think we should sustain our flexibility as a future option.
All due respect, you're one that didn't support 443 either.
Because it was bad tax policy.
You support it now?
Let's go to
We're being
Councilmember. Let's go to Councilmember Roosing.
Thank you. I would just like to put a different perspective on this discussion. We all got the COVID check of $1,200, and so if you look at, say, the average city employee has a $50,000 salary, the $1,200 is actually like a 3% bonus. So I think that if we look at that and figure that in, that might give us enough breathing room to get through this difficult fiscal time and look at the 3% raise further down the line.
Thank you, member. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilwoman Scholl.
Thanks, Mayor. Just quickly to speak to Councilmember Roosing's point, I also know people who still have not received their stimulus check. So I think it's important to remember that some got it early, some are still waiting on it, and so I don't think it's really something that we should take into consideration when making calculations about whether or not to give raises. You know, I really can kind of see it from both Blair and Good's viewpoints. I think they're both valid arguments. I think what I want to make clear, and I hope that our staff knows, is how much we do value them and how much I appreciate them continuing to work and being flexible and adapting to a very fluid situation, as the mayor would say. You know, I think that's really kind of the spirit of public service and working for a governmental entity is working during hard times and continuing to provide services. So I hope that our staff knows that we do appreciate them and that we want to be able to give them raises and that that's our goal and that we will continue the conversation around it. But I do think that it should still stay in contingency, and my intention is to be able to give raises and talk about it in the fall and have a better understanding of long-term what the effects are. But I do definitely understand, Blair, your point about being firm about our support for giving raises.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, and I agree with Councilwoman Scholl. We said this at the last, and I thought I said it loud and clear, is how much we appreciate our employees. Goodness knows this city would be nowhere as it is today without our employees. I would also hate to see us give a raise and then some departments actually have to cut employees or, we've been able to do this without losing employees. And I think the idea of, well, you got your $1,200 from the government, so we don't need to give you a 3% raise is a really bad idea. And I hope nobody out there in our employees will take that as that's what we're thinking. I would like to revisit this in the fall. And it is, as I understand this, if in the fall, if we feel that our revenue is holding up, that we can go back and give those raises, and it's all going retroactive.
That's correct.
I mean, and that I understood last time, but I don't think, Councilman Blair, I don't think that was conveyed. And Cindy, I thought you did a great article, but I believe the headline just didn't convey that. So we don't know yet what's going to happen this summer. We really don't know. We're seeing some uptick in other places, and I just think it's going to be premature for us to make those decisions and say, oh no, now we can't give you the 3%. I'm hoping some people are going to get 4 and 5%. So, but I just think it's premature. But I really don't want our employees to think that we don't want to do this because you got a $1,200. I'm sorry, I just have to say that. My husband and I, we've all lost a lot of money too in our stock market, and so I just think it's important that we honor our employees, but I don't want to have to rescind what we do. So let's just hold off until fall.
Just a minute.
Mr. Mayor.
I am.
Councilmember Roosing.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry if I was misunderstood. I am totally on board with our wonderful city staff. I know they work very hard. They put in a lot of hours, not just 9 to 5. They're out and about on weekends, going to meetings, and working. And I just meant that the COVID check would help until we were fiscally comfortable with giving the raises, which they entirely deserve. I was just saying that's sort of like a nice little bonus.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Public comment?
Sorry to stir the hornet's nest.
Entertain a motion.
You have it.
Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 2020-1747.
Second.
Motion and second. Let's take a vote.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Yes.
And Mayor Mangarelli?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you for that. Let's move on to item F, please.
Approval of City Contract Number 2005-293A1 and amendment to City Contract Number 2005-293 with Waste Management for solid waste disposal landfill services.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Craig Dosseth, Public Works. So this amendment here is being proposed with Waste Management for disposal of trash at the Gray Wolf Landfill in Dewey, Arizona. So this is all about increased volumes of trash and recyclable materials that we are receiving into our facilities. Not only new accounts, but as well the amount of volume and users at the transfer station. We've been setting record numbers weekly, as well as for the year. We are up around 25%. So originally, we entered into a 25-year contract with Waste Management in fiscal year 2005. At that point, the contract was set up for $1.9 million per annual budget year for this acceptance of our trash at the Gray Wolf site. So this year, due to the increased volumes, we're estimating that we're going to be just over $2,384,000 for the year. So that's creating a shortfall in the range of about $500,000 from what's on the current contract for us to be able to finish paying for the fiscal year. As well, we're estimating going forward, would like to increase it from the 1.9 million to 2.6 million so that we have some additional buffer in there to accept additional accounts also and not have to be here in another year from now asking to increase it again. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I have one.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. Does this mean that if we have the increase, those solid waste funds, are they adjusted on everybody's water bill, or do we have to wait until the next adjustment period?
This isn't a matter of additional expense. This is a matter of new accounts, so we have new revenue coming in, and we have more customers coming across the scale into the transfer station. So we have more expense to take it to the landfill, but we also have more revenue from the accounts and additional services that we're providing.
So are they offsetting one another?
So then, yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions, comments from the council?
Everyone's cleaning stuff out.
Yeah, everybody's
That's exactly right.
cleaning out the attic and the garage.
There's nothing under my bed.
Public comment on this?
No, Mayor.
Let's take entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2005-293A1.
Second.
Second.
I have a
Third.
motion and second and third. Let's take a vote.
Councilman Blair.
Yes.
Councilman Good.
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl.
Yes.
Councilman Sischka.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr.
Yes.
And Mayor Mangarelli.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Item G, please.
Approval of construction cost reimbursement to Chamberlain Development LLC in an amount not to exceed $2,103,097 for construction and realignment of Willow Creek Road curve.
Good afternoon again, Mayor, Council. This item is to approve construction cost reimbursement to Chamberlain Development as outlined in the development agreement, which was brought previously this year. The value of the proposed cost reimbursement here is at a maximum of $2,103,097. Again, I emphasize maximum. So this project, as you're aware, was initiated with the development going on with the Antelope Crossings, Westwood, and soon to come Trinity School in that corridor. So with that, then it triggered the need and the requirement for Chamberlain Development, Deepwell Ranch properties in that area to widen Willow Creek Road up through that corridor. As well as we had the discussions then about concern of the safety of the curve. So currently, the projects that's going on out there is the widening from the bottom of our view here all the way to the top of the arrow. So that is being done solely by the developers in that area associated with those projects. Then our project for the curve widening goes from there around to the Deepwell Ranch roundabout, as was depicted on this exhibit, and is for the curve itself. So improvements with the curve will include realignment of the curve, widening of Willow Creek Road from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, along with the center median from SR 89 around the corner to the private development widening line. And to read something directly that's out of the development agreement, then in there, the owner, that's Chamberlain Development, will be solely responsible for the construction of the portion of Willow Creek Road from James Lane going north to the start of the Willow Creek Road curve. The owner shall remove the existing asphalt in the Willow Creek Road curve, remove 30,000 cubic yards of export material, and dedicate to the city additional right-of-way needed to realign the roadway curve. The city shall reimburse the owner for the construction of the newly designed Willow Creek Road curve, reimburse the owner for removal of export material in excess of the 30,000 cubic yards, and provide construction documents and record drawings for the construction. Earlier I mentioned maximum for this value. I say maximum because by the development agreement, then we are responsible for that additional 38,000 cubic yards of earth movement we would have to go and find a place to store that and then have all the associated costs with moving that dirt that we might use somewhere down the road. Additional development projects that are being considered in this area by Chamberlain Development, they came back to us and asked if they had the use and the need for that material on another project right there. Would we be amenable to the idea of them being able to maintain more of that dirt there at that place? So ultimately, if they have a place in a project for that dirt, then that could be another savings for us on our reimbursement side of around $275,000, as well as there's already about $400,000 of benefit to the DA and this joint cooperation on this project with a total cost of about 2.5, and we're looking at our maximum involvement of about 2.1. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Craig. Questions, comments from the council?
Well, Mayor, I'm just glad to see that we're going to get started on softening that curve and making it much more safe. So I'm glad that we're getting going on it. And when do you expect it to be completed?
I forget if we had 60 days or 90 days. I want to say it was a 90-day contract that we were anticipating for that. So we get this approved now. They should be able to be working on it, you know, if not by the end of this month, in July, and be finished up this fall.
So how will that impact traffic circulation going north on Willow Creek into the roundabout, and then we've got the other construction on the east side?
The other construction that they're working on right now is the widening in there.
Right.
So this will join right in with that. There absolutely will be a time where this curve is going to need to be closed. In order to be able to remove that existing asphalt and move the 68,000 cubic yards of material that are in there. So there absolutely will have to be a closure in there. So then access to Antelope Crossings, Saddlewood in there would be from the south on Willow Creek Road. We built and had this road in place prior to ADOT doing State Route 89 widening. So then when the construction was going on there, traffic was able to route around here with that. So now in conjunction with this work, now that 89 is complete, we have that good corridor there, as well as James Lane then to be able to get back across to Willow Creek Road. So there will be some inconvenience, but it doesn't have to be too bad.
Yeah, I know. I've started to use James Lane. I think a lot of people don't realize that that's an option. Thank you.
And Mayor, just to clarify, the development agreement requires the start of the construction within 60 days after approval, so.
Okay. Other questions, comments from the council? Public comment?
No, Mayor.
Entertain a motion?
Mayor, move to approve construction costs reimbursement to Chamberlain Development LLC in an amount of not to exceed $2,103,097.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's take a vote.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Yes.
And Mayor Mangarelli.
Yes.
All right. All passed 7-0.
All right, let's move on to item H, please.
Approval of PLN 20-001, a preliminary plat for Luxter Prescott RV Storage Condominium, a 128-unit subdivision in an existing storage facility building.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members. Tammy DeWitt, Community Planner. Before you is a preliminary plat, and the next item is the final plat that goes with this, to allow for the creation of a 128-unit condo subdivision. This is a storage facility, that's an RV storage facility that's almost completed. The applicant just provided me pictures. So we do have a gated entry into it. It's getting ready to be finalized soon. Each unit will be individually owned for RV storage. There are deed restrictions. There will be a property owners association that'll maintain and kind of police the properties. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of this preliminary plat, 3-1. Commissioner Hutchinson voted no and explained that he had voted against the motion because he was concerned about other potential uses that the units could be used for, such as offices, living, but habitable is not allowed in the industrial. And basically, this is a picture of an RV in one of the storage units. They're all about the same, they're same size. And as you can see, there really isn't much room for anything else going on in those with the RV storage in there. So the applicant wanted to provide these pictures to address those concerns. And, but basically, this plat will help create these units to be sold individually and owned. And so that concludes my presentation. I'm free to answer any questions, and the applicant is also here.
Thank you, Tammy.
Sure.
Any questions, comments from the council?
I have a question, Mayor.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Rusing.
What about storage of hazardous materials like gasoline and flammable materials? Do you have something in place to prevent people from doing that?
Yes, their deed restrictions will preclude that.
Yeah, there's deed restrictions, Councilmember.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Thanks,
Can I
Mayor.
add to that too? There are also fire code restrictions that would prohibit, obviously there may be gas stored in a gas tank, but our fire code would also prohibit explosives and things like that storage. So in addition to the private deed restrictions, we also have the city code and the fire code.
Got it. Thank you. Councilwoman Scholl?
Thank you.
This is more just a curiosity question. Do you know how much these units are going to run for?
I'll let the applicant address that. I'm sure a lot of people, there's a lot of RV storage going on right now, so.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm one of the partners. The units, this whole project was designed to take Prescott in consideration for the retirement. I've had storage units over in Lake Havasu City. They're not anywhere constructed like this. These are insulated. These are going for anywhere from 50 to 82,000. They range from 35 foot to 55 foot. Second phase has some drive-throughs, five drive-throughs. And we've got 84 built now. And we are doing lease option and then also sales. So we're trying to get, when I came here 4 years ago, there was, I had a feasibility study done. And the feasibility study was done by Mojave County Bank. And this town can handle, when they were bringing 5,500 new homes in here, in 2016, it could handle 966 enclosed RV storage units. This is the first 128. Now you have 17,000 more homes coming in. There's still no RV enclosed storage units. And they have some covered storage. The other thing of it is that this particular project runs about 30% more to build here than it does in Lake Havasu because of the under 40-degree rule, drainage, grading, and it's actually a 5-star facility. It's really beautiful. So I think Prescott deserves to have it. They're parking out. We sold one of the units. We had a reservation on it. And the gentleman had two, let's see, a 42 Tiffin and a 45 Tiffin. Those are high-end coaches. He parked it out over here in Prescott and was getting ready to go on vacation with his wife. Went to start it, wouldn't start, took it in, $17,000 worth of rat damage in the wiring. When he saw this facility, first day he came and he bought a unit. So I think it's a good project for Prescott.
So they're rat proof.
Oh, yes.
Big selling point.
And
Well,
they're not wide enough to do any business. And we have in the CCNRs no habitating. You can't pull them out. We have areas designated for air water dump station, and we have an area for mobile detail.
Oh, nice.
on site.
Well, thanks for
So-
that extra information, and thanks for your investment in Prescott.
No,
Appreciate
thank you so much.
Yep. Any other questions, comments from the council?
Mayor, I just wanted to say this is a wonderful thing for our city. I know so many people that have RVs and they can't keep them at Prescott Lakes. They can only park them while they get it ready. And they drive a long ways to put it somewhere. So this is excellent. So thank you. That's a good deal.
All right. Any public comment?
No, Mayor.
Entertain a motion?
So Mayor, I move to approve PLN 20-001, a preliminary.
Next page.
I'm trying to look for it. Here it is. A preliminary plat for Luxor Prescott RV Storage Condominium.
Second.
Motion and second. Let's take a vote.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Yes.
And Mayor Mangarelli?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Let's move on to item I, please.
Approval of FNP 20-004, a final plat for Luxor Prescott RV Storage Condominium, a 128-unit subdivision in an existing storage facility building.
We won't make you present again, but this is,
This is the final plat.
John, this is just, we can do these back to back.
Right. Normally, the reason a preliminary plat and a final plat are separated is because a lot of engineering is done between preliminary and final. In this case, there isn't any. Statute says we can approve them back to back. There's no time frame or waiting period.
Very good. Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve FNP 20-004, a final plat for Luxor Prescott RV Storage Condominium.
Second.
Motion and second. Let's take a vote.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Yes.
And Mayor Mangarelli?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Let's move on to item J. Thanks, Tammy.
Approval of city contract number 2019-251A2, an amendment to city contract number 2019-251 with the city of Phoenix.
Good afternoon again, Mayor, Council. Craig Dosseth, Public Works. This amendment, considering here, is with the City of Contract for our existing IGA that we have with them for handling our recycled materials that we take down to the MRF. So again, along the same lines as trash, the recyclable materials are up a fair amount this year, and we're going to run a shortfall to be able to finish out the fiscal year and pay for the recyclable materials. We did have a small increase in the fee associated with the IGA when we brought that forward earlier this year. There was also a shared revenue component of that IGA, calculated charges and rebates, and then there's an audit associated with that to determine the reject level of the inbound materials delivered by Prescott. There's also an incentive program for additional credits per ton applied to our recycle loads based upon that reject material. So you will also see, as the year goes on, additional public outreach from us on how to recycle right and the best materials that we can take in order to reduce the reject and reduce our costs ultimately there. So we are estimating that we're going to have a shortfall to be able to finish out this fiscal year of $62,500. So that's we're asking to up it to that $212,500, and then in subsequent years following, we are asking to be able to increase it up to $260,000 on those years to make sure that we're able to cover the costs associated with the recycling program. Covered everything there. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments from the council? Public comment?
No, Mayor.
Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2019-251A2.
Second.
Motion and second. Let's take a vote.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Yes.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Yes.
And Mayor Mangarelli?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
And item K.
Approval of city contract number 2017-064A7 and amendment to city contract number 2017-064 with Van Contracting for solid waste hauling services.
Hello again, Mayor. So this is to amend the contract with Fan Contracting, who hauls our trash to the Gray Wolf landfill, as well as the recyclables down to the city of Phoenix. And if you haven't all heard, we are hauling more and receiving more than we ever have. For instance, the contracts are set up, trash was estimated at 45,000 tons. Currently, we are running in the 53,000, almost 54,000 ton range. And recyclable was based on 4,500 tons, and we're in the range of 5,800 on both those. So our shortfall, in order to be able to finish the year, we're looking at about $100,000. And then going forward, we're looking at increasing the contract amount from the 900,000 to 1.2 million for the final 2 fiscal years of the contract. And again, as we discussed earlier, this is directly offset by new accounts, and the volume of material is coming in, so the revenue does balance the higher expense. Questions?
All right. Questions, comments from the council, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, Craig, you're doing so much more work than you were doing. How many people have you hired to do this additional work?
There was 1 additional truck and operator improved in the fiscal year 20 budget.
It's amazing. So I just wanted to make that point, that you've been able to do all of this additional work without bringing on more people. And so I think that's commendable.
Thank you.
Councilman Good?
Thank you, Mayor. I noticed one reference here to a fuel adjustment based upon CPI increase in diesel fuel. When I'm looking at the seasonally adjusted quarter where diesel fuel is down 28%. And overall energy prices are down 56%. So kind of confused about how they need an adjustment for higher diesel fuel costs.
When we brought that contract forward, it was different times at that point. Yes, currently it is down. The one thing I can't tell you at this moment is if it goes biannual or if it goes by a month rate or quarterly. That's the only thing I can't answer for you right now. But it's all abiding by the current contract and the requirements that are included in that contract.
Well, I can certainly understand the increasing tonnage, but if they're asking for a fuel surcharge increase when diesel fuel is going down and has been down, it's kind of hard to justify an additional increase in CPI for diesel fuel when it's going in the opposite direction that they're claiming.
I would venture to guess, Councilman Good, that it's got to be annual CPI, because they're probably not adjusting this on a 90-day period. I mean, nobody's on top of things that much that they'd be able to do
Well,
that.
I know they're referencing quarterly
I could be wrong.
fuel, so
I'm
that's
just,
why I pulled it, just to check it.
and we could check on that and see if it's adjustable on a quarterly basis, or if that's the nature of the contract.
Well, we're absolutely following what's required by the contract. And if you'd like clarification, I'd be happy to look into that and let you know if it is annual or on a quarterly basis.
I do know that other big contractors such as Van will purchase that diesel way ahead of time, much like propane. And if the price was lower than it is today, then that adjustment, because they bought it as a low and now it's gone up based upon when they bought it, they're making that adjustment for the low to the high, even though it seems to be low. So it just all is predicated on when they purchased the fuel lot and what price it was and what they're asking for today. So it's worth looking at, yeah.
Got to buy a bunch right now for future.
Exactly. Well, and even if it's not something that's impactful now, as we go forward, the dramatic reduction in fuel costs should be something that we need to monitor for the next go-around when they ask for something.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Thanks, Mayor. Craig, can you remind everyone what the free slash days are this month?
The free slash days are each Saturday within June. We just had last Saturday, and we have coming up against this Saturday on the 13th. So each Saturday, 8 to 4 p.m., 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., the remaining 3 Saturdays of June.
Perfect. I hope everyone takes advantage of free slash drop off.
Thank you.
Kills with you while you're sitting in line.
Sounds like work to me.
I know.
Is there a reason that our recreation director's here for this? Oh, I just thought we should play kudos for your
He's a dedicated.
stick-to-itist.
He's a dedicated employee. Former man of the year.
Former mayor, always.
Oh well, right. Right.
Mayor,
Never gonna live
I
that
was
down.
thinking the same thing. Yeah. You
Mayor,
just-
I got my answer.
Okay.
The adjustment in the contract is annual.
Annual. Okay. That would make sense.
Next year, we should get good news then.
Other questions, comments, public comment, entertain a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2017-064A7.
Motion and second. Let's take a vote.
Councilman Blair. Councilman Good.
Yes.
Councilmember Roosing. Councilwoman Scholl.
Yeah.
Councilman Sischka.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr. And Mayor Mangarelli.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
The quote today is coming from Abraham Lincoln. We the people are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert the Constitution. This meeting is adjourned.